Hello, friends. Happy Friday. I've been thinking about whether to record this video all week, and I finally just decided to go ahead and do it. This is a little different. I haven't done anything like this before. Well, I haven't done anything like most of these before, so it's not that different, but I was working with some cards on Monday, which is something I do pretty much every day, and I was looking at this Wild Unknown Alchemy guidebook that goes with some cards that I pulled. And I'm going to share a little bit about what I pulled because I think it's really interesting. The first two cards that came out, one was this card, Yellowing. The other was Saturn, which I thought was interesting because there was a conjunction with Saturn and Venus that same weekend, and it was going on Monday. So I thought that was very cool when I pulled those first two cards. The yellow is indicating transition. So it's talking about change and how change can be taken in terms of, it can be something that can be very difficult. It's something that can be very beautiful. And thought that was a little bit fitting with just everything going on in the world right now. There's a lot of change happening. I have been learning how to ride the waves of change and the stress that goes along with change for a while. And so I'll share more about that because I have lots of thoughts about that topic. But really, the thought there is, this yellowing, the transition is something that can be viewed in different ways. And so it really is something to pay attention to. And then the Saturn card, Saturn in archetypal astrology, which is something that I know just a tiny bit about, enough to be troublesome. He's about time. He's sort of the serious father figure. You can see there's like a little bit of sickle action going on there. But, it's about steadiness. It's about the ticking of the clock. It's about also change. There's a heavy masculine element to Saturn, obviously. I think there's a lot that represents maybe the masculine in culture in Saturn. And governance. A lot of force, a lot of weight and heaviness. But it's really about, structure, authority, the types of things that we view maybe with the more masculine aspects of culture and ourselves. And what was really cool is then I just decided to pull another card, and the card that came out, one of my neighbors has a dog or a child outside that they're yelling for. The other card that came out was Venus, which is why I've been thinking all week about whether to post this, because it was just too interesting that the Saturn and Venus came out together right as there was a conjunction of those two planets in the western sky in Tucson. It was absolutely gorgeous. You can see Venus right now is very bright in the western sky right after sunset, and it was even brighter with a little bit of Saturn there on connecting up. And of course, Venus is pleasure, beauty, feminine, really everything that is our connection to pleasure, sensuality. So these two cards together are just such a massive, the Saturn and the Venus are such a massive polarity. And one of the things that I think is very, very fascinating about the whole thing is really just kind of where we are as a culture, as a civilization, as a world, as individuals, maybe with struggling with how masculinity shows up in the world. And I don't mean that in any kind of insult to men. I think that is, I'm talking about archetypally, that we all have both masculine and feminine qualities, and those qualities show up in the world in obviously very different ways. And I feel like we've got a little bit of an imbalance, maybe more than a little bit. Maybe a little bit is an understatement. A little bit of an imbalance right now in masculine energy, just in our culture, in Western culture, that's not new. That's something that's been developing for, hundreds, arguably thousands of years. And, we're definitely seeing at this point in our development as a civilization some really impactful results of that imbalance. And I think the question for all of us to consider is, well, what does balance look like? What does more balance look like for you as an individual, for me as an individual, for our culture, for our world? There's a lot of thoughts that I also have around that topic. And I think just wrapping this one up, because I try to keep them short, wrapping this one up, I feel like it's a question to be asking yourself, what does maybe more balance between some of those action-oriented versus some of the receptive and more receiving, caring-oriented parts of ourselves look like? What would it be to honor more of those feminine aspects and just giving ourselves the time to consider that and to spend the time maybe doing the things that support that balance. That was my card draw, or one of my card draws on Monday. And like I said, I thought about it all week and whether I really wanted to put something online with that topic, because it's not something I've shared before, but here we are. So that's what I have to say today about Saturn and Venus and masculine and feminine, and likely there will be more to come on that topic.